Hello and welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. It is me, Geeky Sparkles, and it's just me for this video because, Kneon is unwell. So we're going to talk today about the Warner Brothers Discovery Paramount merger and the fallout around it. It's all over the place. Ted Sarandos is like they overpaid with their offer. The S&P has Paramount a negative credit watch. The Hollywood filmmakers are fearful because they're saying it's the same but a different anxiety. They're also worried about how they're going to do 30 titles a year, even though they were demanding that out of Netflix before. But I guess, now it matters more because it's Paramount. Who the hell knows? So before we get into any further, please like and subscribe. If you do, I'll give you a woohoo. Also, I'm supposed to remind you that if you would like one of my Angry Geeky Sparkles Geeky Rage pins, they're still available. You can go get them on Kickstarter. There's 58 hours to go on this, and I'm pretty sure that he'll leave it up for a few days extra. So if you can't do it till after this, I think you're still pretty good. So we'll start with this. Ted Sarandos says Netflix lost because of an irrational Paramount offer. Maybe it's to our advantage. Well, their stock went up significantly at Netflix after they pulled out of the deal because people weren't really happy with Netflix trying to go in on this deal as far as investors were concerned. They thought it was going to stretch them too thin. This reminds me very much of the Disney situation, where it was Comcast and Disney far overspent on Fox, even though Iger tries to say otherwise now. They overspent. It wasn't worth that. Comcast drove the price up, and then they got to a ridiculous price. Disney's like, I'll go higher. And then they did, and Comcast is like, okay, and walked away. It's almost like a shill bid at that point. And then, they got to keep all their money and go build Epic Universe and other things, and Disney got stuck paying for Fox and ended up in some issues there. Now, that's kind of what Ted Sarandos is saying. He's like, they are paying an insane amount of money for Warner Brothers, and with that debt and everything, he doesn't think it's worth it. He said he's upbeat and optimistic after Netflix dropped its bid. He spoke to Bloomberg. He said, I knew right away when we got the notice on Thursday that Paramount has a superior offer and the details of the deal. We knew exactly what we were going to do. They didn't, pay for it. He said we had a very tight range and we'd be willing to pay that and make that offer back. But when we close this deal, but I'm happy where we got and happy we got out. He said before that he didn't believe that they were going to pay more than that they had a limit, stuck to their limit like a rational business, and just let other people overpay. Now, interestingly enough, Ted Sarandos is saying that Trump had nothing to do with it. Trump said he was going to stay out of it. According to Sarandos, he did stay out of it. Sarandos denied the Department of Justice routine investigation to the deal or any political force had anything to do with their decision to pull out. I don't know that there was growing political resistance, he said. It was a growing narrative of political resistance, but we are on a normal regulatory path. The story has been fed out for everybody, but it's not accurate. We were not only involved with the DOJ, we were involved with 50 regulatory bodies around the world, and these things have been going exactly the way they should. He said Trump stayed completely neutral on this. So with all the media out there being like, oh my God, Trump and the DOJ ruined the deal. Trump and the DOJ didn't do anything. It was all, when I saw people were posting about it, I was like, well, that's normal. When they were saying about, oh, you have to go through the DOJ and that process, to make sure there's no monopoly and all that other stuff and make sure you get the approval to do it. That's normal. I was very confused when people kept saying, like the media, the ones you'd expect, that, oh my gosh, Trump and them, they're just making them do things they shouldn't have to do to try to stop it so Paramount could get the deal. And that wasn't what's going on. And even Ted Sarandos said, no, I'm seeing it in the news, but that's not what happened. So right from the horse's mouth, he has no reason to lie. And he's like, no, they didn't do anything that wasn't, typical for the situation. And Trump stayed out of it. That's coming directly from the source. He's not blaming they're not getting the deal through on Trump at all. And actually, again, Netflix is in a good position because when they said they weren't going to pay any more and they were walking it back and they were just going to step away, their stock went up significantly. So investors were not sold on it. And one of the reasons was probably the massive amount of debt that was going to come out of Paramount. And originally, it was going to be, if it was Netflix, they were only buying the Warner Brothers stuff, and then Discovery Global was going to be the spinoff that they made for Warner Brothers to keep Discovery in play. And they had talked before how they were going to spin off debt, I think, out of Discovery Global or into Discovery Global. I forget. They were spinning off debt in some way. So it was not going to probably all end up at Netflix, but who knows. But now Paramount had a bunch of debt from acquiring, well, Skydance had a bunch of debt from acquiring Paramount, and now their debt's even more with getting Warner Brothers. So the S&P puts Paramount on a negative credit watch. Let me close this. They said the ratings firm cited rising debt after acquiring Warner Bros. Discovery for revising its credit outlook. But it still gave them a BB plus rating. But they said that it's been put on watch for possible credit rating downgrade after the studio prevailed against Netflix with 31 per share bid. The rating firm has revised its outlook to negative while affirming its BB plus credit rating on grounds Paramount will see its debt load likely grow beyond a red line for a possible downgrade. The company is yet to provide complete details about how it will finance the transaction, which we estimate will cost $111 billion, including the assumption of Warner Bros. Discovery's debt and a one-time $2.8 billion termination payment to Netflix, because they agreed that if they took the Paramount deal or a Netflix deal, they would pay Netflix the termination fee, so Warner Bros. Didn't have to. We believe the purchase will increase its leverage well above our 4.25 downgrade threshold for the current rating. So they think it's going to take on more debt, so they're going to have to probably downgrade it. They don't know yet. We know the S&P Global adjusted leverage, which includes our adjustments for operating leases and restructuring charges, and is net of cash as of December 31st, 2025. Pisky, which is Paramount Skydance, has offered Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders a daily ticking fee starting after September 30th, 2026 until the transaction closes, which could add another $650 million each quarter in additional costs of the transaction. So they're doing a wait and see attitude, but if Paramount successfully completes the merger and integration, we would likely view the pro forma company more positively because it would have an enviable collection of marquee IP and the largest library of film and television content in the world. So basically, if they can put it through, we're gonna raise that again if it goes through, because we'll think that's a good deal. Because they've got so much going for them then. But for now, until they get it all figured out, we don't know where the stuff's coming from. We're downgrading it. So there's that. That's not looking good. Then Hollywood, of course, is having a hissy. Filmmakers fearful as Paramount wins Warner Brothers. Different bidders, same anxiety. Which I said. I was like, it's all the same things you're complaining about Netflix. It's just that now it's Paramount, which makes you even madder because Paramount seems to lean left, and you're mad because Ellison's. Different bitter, same anxiety, the theater exec said. Maybe we don't have a deal with Netflix making sudden promises to go back on everything they've ever said about shorter theatrical windows, but I think everybody in our business believes that we're better off with Warner Brothers under the ownership of any other major studio. So you were pissed and salty when it was Netflix because you're like, oh, I don't trust that he's not going to, say one thing and do another, right? And you're pissed and salty if it's Paramount, who was saying they were going to do what you wanted, because they lean left and, you're worried about that because it's Ellison's. So you're salty either way. You want it so that nothing changes, but that's impossible. But if something did change, you want somebody else to buy it. But other than, I think, Comcast, was there anybody else really trying to buy it that was, possibly had the money to do so? It was going to get sold no matter what. Whether you wanted to or not is irrelevant. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Hollywood's contracting as it is. And as I've mentioned many times, you can have 30 movies in the theater. It doesn't mean they're going to be all winners. And I don't think it's a good idea to promise 30 films, because I think you're going to put a lot of crap out to say, oh, look, we did 30 films. And, it's funny because they were wanting all that before. Like, they wanted promises of all these films from Netflix. And, when Netflix promised that, they were like, okay with it. But now that it's Paramount, they've got a problem with it. And over here we have, on Deadline, they're talking about how they don't even know if 30 films is feasible. But they were just demanding it from Netflix before. So Sarando said that, there's going to be, some redundancies and some layoffs, because you don't need two, departments for each thing. But Paramount apparently is saying they're going to try not to lay people off, which I don't know how that's going to work. But they're saying that contrary to previous words and actions in theatrical space, it's less the worry about Paramount Warner Brothers. Rather, it's how do you pull off a major studio release schedule with 30 titles, considering most have unspooled recently by a major studio was Universal's 20 titles last year. So they had 20 titles last year, and now they're saying, hey, we're going to do, that was Universal, and now they're saying, oh, we're going to do 30 films a year between Warner Brothers and Paramount. Exhibitors at Cinema United don't think it's possible. Again, the theater people keep they're mad either way. They wanted it to say the same for whatever reason, but Cinema United, here's the problem. Your best shot at getting butts in the seats at all is them doing 30 films a year, because the market is shrinking. Hollywood is shrinking. A lot of places aren't putting out as many films. And what happens is there are only a handful of films a year that people actually want to see, that do really, really well. The tent poles, the blockbusters. There's only like a handful, maybe up to 10 a year, maybe, that do really, really well. And the rest are a bunch of other movies that no one's ever heard of, or they might break even, may make a little money, but they're not like they're not going to make a ton of money for either the studios or the theaters. And just putting out more crap isn't going to fix it, which is what they're saying. But at the same time, they're demanding that, we have to save the theaters. And how do you save the theaters if you don't have films to put in the theaters? So I'm very confused about what they want, because they're kind of saying two different things. And I don't know what to tell them other than the fact that, hey, maybe, again, I'll say it again, I said the other day, your best bet is to try to find the next Iron Lung or something like that that's done by independent, that maybe has a very, very big audience that supports them, and that you get a lot of the money of the box office. You get more than you would with a studio release. And then you put it in the theaters and you do more of those kinds of things and see if you get butts in the seats for that. Because they're not coming for a lot of these movies. Like Hoppers is coming out and they're trying to, it's a 97% Rotten Tomatoes score and all this other stuff. And it might be a really good movie. I'll let you know. I'm going to go see it. The point is, I don't think it's going to do well. Unless it's, word of mouth is so strong that people like go see it on Thursday, and then by Saturday or Sunday, everybody's starting to show up because they heard it was good. I don't think it's going to do great, because it doesn't matter if it's Disney or Pixar. It doesn't matter what studio is assigned to it now. If people don't want to see it or don't care, they're not going to go. They're already trained to wait for streaming. And Paramount and Netflix would have won either way in that regard, because they're going to have streaming services. They're going to have those services. So either they don't go to the theater and they wait for streaming, they're going to have that. So they're going to win either way. I'm just saying. They said that, they're on 30 dates on the calendar is what they're saying. They said they're expected to close during Q3. We pieced together the Q4 26 calendar, 2027 for the combined studios. And there's 27 movies for the slate. There's already and there's also 4 times the two studios are dated against each other. Right, so you're combining them, and because you weren't going to buy each other out, you're basically going to open against yourself. Well, that's going to be inevitable in the next year, because unless you move dates, which is also possible, but that's going to be inevitable because they just merged. So, of course, they're going to be going against itself. That would not have happened on Netflix, because Netflix doesn't put movies out theatrically very often. If they do, it's limited run. But since it's one big studio buying out another studio, of course they're going to have competing, movies. Here's Street Fighter is going to be October 16th. The Clayface is October 23rd. Cat in the Hat is going to be November 6th. And Ebenezer and the Great Beyond are going to be on the same day on the 13th. They have a lot of things that are close together. I mean, Dune's going up against, I think, the new Avengers movie. So, here's one that they have several on the same dates. Bad Fairies, Untitled Paranormal Activity movie. But these are completely different audiences. Like, the different audiences for these, I think, a lot of times. Untitled film and untitled film. But these can be moved. Man of Tomorrow on July 9th. Untitled Paramount Horror Event on July 16th. Again, probably different audiences. The Minecraft movie sequel, July 23rd, 2027. A Quiet Place 3, July 30th, 2027. Again, not really a lot of crossover there. So, yes and no. I mean, some are similar, but I don't think a lot of them have the same audiences. So they're talking about how studios have avoided flooding the dead zone on the release calendar post-COVID, like January, February, mid-spring, September, October. But maybe that's to your advantage if you use those dates, because no one else is putting them there and there's nothing else for people to watch. Okay, I'm just pointing that out. Forget box office forecasts and data around what is and isn't possible, but consider relationships with filmmakers. How do you explain to one that their Paramount tentpole is falling in the wake of a Warner Brothers one, or vice versa? Easy. The schedule was done before we bought the company. And a lot of these tentpoles don't seem like they have some crossover, but a lot of it doesn't seem like they're similar audiences. And they can really just move things around to make sure that they aren't similar audiences. So they're arguing, well, how do you explain to somebody at Warner Brothers that the Paramount movie's opening against them? It's going to happen. I mean, you got Dune 3 opening up against Avengers. I mean, who thought that was a good idea? I'm just saying, you know? And I think it's Avengers. One of them is opening up against another big one. I don't know off the top of my head because I see a lot of things every day and I'm still sick, so I'm still in trouble. You can deliver on 30 movies a year and keep 2 divisions separate. I'm not sure if I can do that, but if Ellison can do that, more power to him. The guy from Oppenheimer says, the producer of Oppenheimer. I'm like, they're looking for any reason to get mad. No doubt against a deal like Disney with its tentpole labels, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar's 20th Century, etc. Paramount, Warner Bros. Merger can now compete. Yeah, Disney has all that stuff, and they let Disney do it. I mean, let's be honest here. Disney keeps buying everything. They still let Disney keep buying more. I mean, why they can't really tell Paramount no when they've told Disney yes. They're like, well, they didn't let JetBlue and Spirit merge, so this is the same thing because now it's the number 2 and the number 5 streaming service merging together. Well, Disney had, a part ownership in Hulu, but they got the majority ownership stake on Hulu, and they had to buy out Comcast, and nothing stopped them. And they were 2 big streaming services. Now they have a giant streaming service that rolls all those things together, and now they have ESPN they roll in there too. No one stopped them. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. We don't even know if their regulations are going to allow it to begin with. And if they don't, I'm going to question it because they allowed other people to do something similar. It's going to be what it's going to be. There's all kinds of movies going up against each other. I honestly argue that they have too many damn movies in the theaters, which is probably why no one movie does as good as it could. Unless it's a huge, huge deal like a tentpole. So I don't know what to tell you. Hollywood's mad, theaters are mad, everybody's mad, but Trump didn't do anything and the DOJ didn't do anything to try to stop Netflix from getting Warner Brothers. That's coming directly from Ted Sarandos, so if you're out there saying that, you're full of crap, according to the guy involved. Okay? I honestly didn't care who won, because I knew it was going to be a meltdown crap show either way. But Paramount was definitely the one that was going to have a much larger screaming group of people around it because Ellisons are the ones who are in charge. And they're like, oh my God, Trump's friends. Ah! They're going to put it back to center. People actually want to see movies again. Ah! I can't have that. So I'm just going to keep eating my popcorn and see what happens. What do you think? I did my best by myself. I usually like doing these videos with Kneon because it's really hard to run one of these alone. But I tried, so please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think, comment and let us know, and we will talk to you later. Bye.